Good evening. Welcome to our nightly devotional as we walk through the Sermon on the Mount together. We are still in Matthew chapter 5, but we've made our way to verses 27 through 30 tonight. Verses 27 through 30, we're going to continue to hear from Christ how he's going to fill up the Old Testament law by unpacking the emotional reality that precedes the external sin. So last night we talked about don't murder or call names. Tonight we're looking at the section in the NIV that subtext is adultery. It says, "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery.' But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell." Those are some extreme words. Extreme words. And we can try to explain them away if we want to, but we don't want to. At least I don't want to, because I believe what Christ is dealing with is the matter of the heart, the intentionality, the desire. And so here we're talking about adultery. Now, adultery is widely understood as not just cheating on your spouse, but having sex with someone you're not married to. In fact, the scriptures say that we're supposed to keep the marriage bed pure. And so adultery is a sin, and it's the sin that Christ gives permission for causing divorce. Because when you get married, you commit yourself one to another. Now, later on in the text, we'll see that he uses marriage and that intimate relationship as a picture for how Christ relates to his church. And so how we relate to our spouses is a symbol of Christ and his church. Especially if you look in Ephesians, you'll see this commingling of the symbology that Christ's love for the church should typify how we love our spouses and vice versa. So here we deal with the fact that long before you commit adultery externally, lust is what comes before. Now, lust is the desire of something or someone else for your own benefit, for your own fulfillment. And that's the opposite in many ways of what love is. Love is valuing in the other as someone greater than yourself. Love is most easily defined by the hyphenated word self-sacrifice. If you want to see who somebody loves, see what they sacrifice for. See who they're willing to give up something that they want in order that that other person may have something that they want. In fact, if you're in a relationship and you are trying to convince yourself that because this other person tells you that they love you, and you're trying to explain away all their deeds, I will share with you a key little phrase that I have shared for decades. And that is, when the words and the deeds don't match up, believe the deeds. Believe the deeds. So if love is most clearly defined as self-sacrifice, not just by our own thinking about what love is, but by the fact that the Bible defines it for us, this is how you know what love is, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. So self-sacrifice is what love is. Then lust is valuing yourself more than the other and seeing them as a means to your pleasure or aggrandizement. Lust leads to adultery. Lust leads to sexual sin of all sorts. Lust is definitely, obviously, at the base of rape. Valuing yourself more than the other and utilizing them for your own pleasure. So it says very clearly that if you have looked at a woman lustfully, you've committed adultery with her in your heart. Now, one would assume that the reverse is also the case for the female to the male, although females tend to be less attracted by the physical, visible appearances than men are. I'm not saying that it's not a factor, but it's definitely not quite as forefront as it is with men. Then it goes into this next section, which is also extreme. If your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off. In other words, take drastic measures to make sure that your heart is pure. I don't know about you, but if you are somebody that struggles with lust, if you struggle with pornography, if you struggle with looking lustfully at another, then you should be willing to go to extreme measures to save yourself from that, to save your marriage from that, either the marriage you have now or a marriage you may have in the future someday. If that means you need to get rid of your cell phone, then get rid of your cell phone. Landlines still exist, as inconvenient as they are. If that's your computer, then get rid of your computer. If it's that friendship at work that you keep telling yourself they're just a friend, but you find yourself thinking about them in romantic ways, then get rid of the friendship. Lust is nothing to be played with. Lust is a campfire in the middle of a drought, in the middle of the woods. One slight gust and the whole thing is burning. You allow lust to get a foothold in your heart, in your mind, in your fantasy life, and next thing you know, your whole life is destroyed. I pray that God will keep you far from adultery and far from lust. Now, that's not necessarily stating that you won't ever notice that there's an attractive person of the opposite gender, but it's going that next step and fantasizing about them sexually in your own thought life. May our great God and King bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you, and may he be gracious unto you by giving you the spirit of self-control through his Holy Spirit. Thank you, and good night.